Most people think a donkey is comfortable once they stop acting afraid. I don't think that's true anymore. I think comfort is something much deeper than that. It's not about whether a donkey stands still. It's not about whether they stop moving away. It's about whether they feel like they can stay in the conversation while they're trying to figure things out. And once I started looking at comfort that way, everything about my training began to change. For a long time, I thought I was watching behavior. Now, I think I'm watching communication. Sometimes all the puzzle pieces are right in front of us, but they don't seem to fit together. Tony showed me one piece. Elton showed me another. Now, Dong, Nula, and Nuda are showing me even more. They're all teaching the same lesson. Comfort doesn't always look the way we expect. And if we misunderstand comfort, we're likely to misunderstand everything that comes after it. For years, I was collecting those puzzle pieces, one donkey at a time. I'd notice a behavior that didn't quite make sense. I'd change something in my timing, or lower my expectations, and suddenly the donkey would respond differently. At the time, those moments felt unrelated. It wasn't until I started looking across multiple donkeys that I realized they were all pointing me towards the same question. What does comfort actually look like? Not what I hoped it looked like, not what I expected it to look like, but what the donkey was actually telling me. I've been working with Dong on a simple exercise. I'm teaching him to touch his nose to the halter. At first, it looked like everything was going well. He'd come over, touch his nose to the halter, eat a few oats, and then he'd walk away. A few seconds later, he'd come right back. He wasn't leaving because he didn't want to learn. He wasn't leaving because he didn't like me. He wasn't refusing the exercise. He was leaving because every time I asked for just a little more, he needed space to process it. That was such an important difference. Instead of asking why he kept walking away, I started asking why he felt he had to. That changed my decision. Originally, I wanted to move the halter closer to his neck, but every time I increased my movement, he felt he needed to leave. So instead of moving closer to him, I changed what I was doing. I kept him on my left side. I moved the halter on my right side where it felt less threatening. Then I slowly increased my movement without increasing the pressure he felt. Something really interesting happened. He still flinched. He still thought about it. But instead of walking 20 feet away to process, he stayed with me. He processed right there. That was the moment I realized comfort wasn't about eliminating uncertainty. It was about creating an environment where he didn't feel he had to leave. So, what does comfort actually look like? For me, it's not just one behavior. Sometimes it's blinking. Sometimes it's yawning. Sometimes it's licking and chewing. Sometimes it's taking a deep breath. Sometimes it's simply how quickly they recover after something surprised them. Sometimes they still need to think, but they choose to think beside you instead of 20 feet away. That's a huge difference. Comfort isn't perfection. Comfort is the willingness to stay in the conversation. That doesn't mean I stop asking for things. It means I pay attention to how the donkey responds when I do. If I ask for a little more and they stay with me, even if they blink, even if they need a moment to think, I know we're probably working in a place where learning can still happen. But if every new question causes them to leave, or they can't recover, or I see their body getting tighter instead of softer, that's valuable information too. It doesn't mean the donkey is failing. It doesn't even mean I've asked the wrong question. It might simply mean I've asked the right question at the wrong time, or in a way that made it too difficult to stay in the conversation. That's where timing becomes so important. Good timing isn't just about rewarding the right answer. It's about recognizing the moment before the conversation starts to fall apart. Because if I can keep a donkey comfortable enough to stay engaged, they usually keep teaching me exactly what they need next. Elton taught me that comfort isn't always emotional. We were preparing him for his first farrier visit before he went to his new home. 1 foot, one day. 2 feet, another day. Then the last foot took us several sessions. Every time I picked up that foot, he became incredibly heavy. At first glance, it would have been easy to think he just didn't want to cooperate. But I kept watching. Then I noticed something. His front feet were standing too close together. His hind leg was sometimes stretched out too far behind him. He wasn't balanced. We changed where he was standing. Dan adjusted where he was holding him. Nothing else changed. Suddenly, that heavy foot became light. Elton wasn't telling us no. He was telling us, I can't comfortably hold myself up like this. Sometimes comfort isn't about confidence. It's simply about balance. Now, don't get me wrong. Elton was still nervous. We're preparing him for his first farrier experience, and he's not completely confident yet. But being nervous wasn't the reason he was leaning on me so heavily. That's why I think we have to become detectives. We have to keep asking, what is the donkey trying to tell me? Sometimes the answer is emotional, sometimes it's physical, and sometimes it's both. The more we slow down and pay attention, the more the donkey starts giving us clues. Our job isn't to assume we already know the answer. Our job is to keep putting the puzzle pieces together until the picture starts to make sense. That's what I'm seeing with Nula and Nuda too. These 2 donkeys are part of an experiment I'm doing to learn more about how different training approaches affect the gentling process. With Nuda, I'm using oats as part of the process. With Nula, I'm not using any food pay. The goal is not to prove that one way is right or one way is wrong. The goal is to pay attention and learn. Because even when we're working with 2 donkeys that have a similar starting point, they are still individuals. They both have curiosity. They both seek us out. They both have moments where they need to think. But their thresholds are different. Their comfort zones are different. And that is what makes this so interesting. Training isn't about finding one magic answer that works for every donkey. It's about learning how an individual donkey communicates. Our job isn't to make every donkey fit our plan. Our job is to recognize where they are and help them grow from there. Even with Shamus, who I've ridden for years, comfort still matters. I know he's mentally with me when the cues stay light. He responds softly. His feet move more willingly. If I suddenly need more pressure for things he normally understands, I don't automatically assume he's being stubborn. I start asking what changed in our conversation. Because comfort doesn't stop being important once the donkey is trained. It stays important for the rest of their life. And I think this is something we sometimes forget with the donkeys that we know more. It's easy to think that because the donkey has done something before, they should always be ready to do it the same way. But they're still communicating with us every time we work with them. Their environment changes, their body changes, their confidence changes, and our job is to listen. A good partnership isn't built because we never have challenges. It's built because when something changes, we're willing to look for the reason instead of just asking for more. If you want to follow along with the deeper parts of this journey, I do share more behind the scenes training with my members. That's where I go deeper in the decisions I'm making, what I'm watching for, and the things that don't always make it into the public videos. We're also documenting experiments like Nula and Nuda, where I'm comparing different approaches and sharing what I'm learning along the way. And for those who want more personalized help with their donkeys, I also offer coaching where we can work through your specific training challenges. So if I had to define comfort today, I'd say this. Comfort is when a donkey feels safe enough, emotionally and physically, to stay in the conversation while they're figuring things out. That doesn't mean they're never nervous. It doesn't mean they'll never leave. It means they're recovering more quickly, staying engaged longer, and beginning to believe they can work through uncertainty instead of escaping it. And once a donkey is comfortable enough to stay in the conversation, the next question becomes, do they actually understand what we are asking? Because comfort opens the door. Clarity is what helps them walk through it. And that's what we'll explore in the next video. If you're enjoying this series, make sure you're subscribed because we're going to work through each of the 5 C's using real donkeys and real training sessions. If you'd like to see the behind-the-scenes decisions, including our donkey experiment with Nula and Nuda, that's available for channel members. And if you'd like help applying any of these ideas to your own donkeys, I offer coaching and hands-on gentling clinics throughout the year. I'll see you in the next video where we'll talk about clarity.